Hi, this is Wayne from HMO Daddy, and this is an explanation on how to use our evaluation spreadsheet for large or small HMOs. So this is the package. Hopefully you've got it downloaded and you're playing with it in front of you. These yellow boxes at the top are variables that you can adjust. If we come across slightly as well, you scroll left and right, you can see all the various boxes at the top, right across to the right hand side here. When we get an answer, the answer will come out at the bottom in this section, and the section we're interested in will be yellow. So let's just run through a fairly straightforward example to start. The first choice that you've got when you're designing your HMO is how many rooms or studios you've got. Let's go for a vanilla model of 5 studios. Because we've got no rooms, it doesn't matter what we set the price of the rooms to. So what we're interested in though is the price of a studio, which in this area is about £100, and we work weekly, so this thing is based on weeks. Purchase price of a typical property for that sort of size around here is about £85,000, which we put into property price, and then our mortgage rate about 5% for an interest-only HMO mortgage, up to 8 or 9% for a repayment option, so we'll stick it in as 5% start. The blue box here calculates the utility costs, that's water rates, gas, electricity, Wi-Fi itself. As you see, if you were to increase the number of studios, that increases. So you can leave the utilities alone. Bad debt rate is your guesstimate of how much you're going to lose to either people not paying you or empty rooms. So 10% is a good starting rate for a studio. You can play with that later, but 10%. From experience, we usually find that if you're making a studio model, you're looking at about £14,000 worth of work per studio in the entire block. And that will cover all the sort of roof works, plumbing works, all the stuff that's the fabric of the building. So we're not actually spending £14,000 in that studio, but it's just a rule of thumb that the total cost will be that price times the number of studios. If we were doing rooms, rooms tend to be about £5,000 or £6,000 because there's less infrastructure. You put it into there. Your management company, as a rule, will charge you around 12%. And again, maintenance is another auto-calculated one based on number of rooms. So if we were to change that to 8 rooms, as you can see, the maintenance goes up. Maintenance is for general repairs. There's obviously a cost on top for any people that move out and leave a mess. You need to repaint a room. So that's just basic boiler repairs, plumbing, wear and tear at the centre of the building, that type of thing. If we come to refinance commercially, we'll be interested later in how they value the property based on commercial income. So it starts off at about 6 in the Northern Territories, down to about 14 times in London. Just leave that alone for now, we're not particularly worried. How much do you think you're going to be paying your solicitor? So maybe starting off on a couple of thousand for the solicitor. If you manage to make an increase in equity, we'll be able to cash out, which means we'll take the extra equity out. That means your mortgage will go up. Or you can choose not to. But obviously, if we start off with no, we're not taking any cash out because you might not be able to take any cash out. How much are they going to lend to you against the finished value commercially? It's there. Is it an existing residential building or is it commercial? This automatically works at the stamp duty for you. So if that was a commercial terrace, which it is, £2,500 worth of stamp duty. If it was an old factory or office, put in no stamp duty because the thresholds are all different. If you want to look at some of these calculations, they're down here at the bottom. The stamp duty shows you where that calculation comes from, and the rates, and also the utilities. So we're starting off with residential. This is a bit of a sort of trial at the moment. If you know what the square footage is for the size of the building, if you put it in there, it'll give you the room size that you can create, and the bigger it is, then the colours will change. So a good size room is 250 square feet. That includes the corridor to get to it, a bit of landing space. So you won't actually end up with a room of that size, you'll end up with one a bit smaller. So there's all our permutations. We're now ready to get our first set of results. So we come down and we look across and just scroll right until the yellow boxes come across as well and line up with our columns. And here we have the set of answers. So the first value is the finished value commercially of the building. Now that is simply the rental per year times the multiplier. So we've got a finished value as far as the banks are concerned of 208,000. They will now lend you 70% if you use 70% up here as the loan to value. So they will lend you 145,000. you would have spent 5 times 14, £70,000 on converting that property into the 5 studios. So your total expenditure will be 159,000, which is your purchase, your conversion, your stamp duty, and your solicitors. The next box is what you really should have offered for that house, because this is the price that you need to pay to break even. So 73,000 you would need to go back and offer for that house to break even. Otherwise, if you did spend I think we said 85,000, you will be leaving 11,000 pounds tied up in the property, because you've spent 159,000 and you will only be able to borrow 145,000. So you're 11,000 in the red. You won't be able to increase the mortgage by taking out a negative amount, so you can ignore that. And then as far as profit and loss are concerned, 26,000 a year is your gross turnover, 15,000 pounds worth of mortgages, expenses, costs, 3 grand to your management company, and a profit per year of 7,700. So if you manage it yourself, you're going to get 10 grand. If you manage it, hand it over to somebody else, we've got 7,000. So that's our basic strategy. First of all, just to have a play and see how it stands with the offer price from the estate agent or wherever you're buying it. So first thing we can do is say, well, 73,000, can we go in and offer 73,000? And should they say yes, you can instantly get a change. You can see that you're now 600 quid in credit. Your rent will have, net profit will have gone up because you're not paying interest on 11,000. So that's your ideal price, 73,000. Okay, so they don't accept your offer. You still have to pay 85,000. You're going to have to borrow 159,000 or use 159,000. When you get refinanced, you're only going to get 145 back. So 11,000 of your savings are tied up in the house. Not the end of the world, but you're making nearly 8,000 a year. What can go wrong? So we can play with things. How bad a landlord do you think you can be before you break the model? Well, what if you were to say that 33% of people didn't pay you, or 33% of rooms were empty? Then let's put 33% in bad debt. Flick down to the bottom. You still should be making nearly 2 grand a year. And again, your management company is making twice as much as you, but you're not going to go bust if 30 of your rooms are empty. Let's see if we can hit the breaking spot. 42%. You're losing 500 quid a year. So effectively, you could have 2 rooms out of the 5 not paying every year and still break even. So we don't want to get to that, but that just shows you that it's a fairly safe purchase, this particular property. What would happen if mortgage rates did some incredible Black Friday type things? What we're going to guess, 11% on a mortgage rate. Let's have a look at the bottom line. You're going to lose £1.5 a year. So we don't want to get to 11%. 10%, £30 a year profit. Now I think that's fantastic. So you could have a brief doubling of mortgage rates and still survive. 5% we'll put that back to. Okay, so fundamentally that's it. Where we now sort of play with things is how things might improve in the future, or you might be able to sort of crank things up to make things more interesting. Could you get now or in the future £120 per week? Well, instantly your value goes up massively and your bottom line goes up massively because you know all that 20% extra revenue coming through the door. The main interesting thing though is you've got a excess of £17,000 here, which is you only put 159,000 in, but because of the income, the value is now 174,000. So there's £17,000 of extra equity that you could, given the right lender, withdraw, taking the entire sum. So now we can go up to cash out. Yes, give me the money. And what that means is that you'll get less net revenue per year because you're paying more mortgage, but you've got a lump sum of £17,000 extra than you started with when you began this process. Doesn't work so well on terraces because there's 1,000,001 terraces, but if you can do this with a commercial building, then this is the type of thing we should be getting every time. Let's just change that back to no cash out. The other thing you could be doing, if the rooms are only a small size, you can only get £100, that's the going rate in that town. Is it worth you cramming another room in the attic, building something out the back, change the studios to 6, let's see what the difference makes. Again, the value has now gone up. Interestingly, the value has gone up to the same because you're now on the same income. 6 rooms at £100 is the same as 5 rooms at £120. But the income is now, again, over £10,000 a year. Could we fit 7 in there? 12,500 a year. So that's what it's all about, numbers. How many can you get in? The other interesting thing, of course, is if we were just to do room model, we'd get less revenue per month, but you wouldn't have to spend so much to do it. So let's put 5 rooms in and no studios at £70. Clearly the value is a lot less. On the other hand, you've only had to spend 25,000 conversion. You're making a not very sexy £4 a year, but you've invested less money to get there. Of course, rooms are far less desirable than studios. You're better off, if you can, doing studio model. People will stay longer, pay more for the privilege. Okay, so this model stretches to as many rooms as you want, and the rule of thumb is the more rooms you can fit into a property, the bigger it is, the better cash out, the better profit you'll make. So an example we've done recently in Wednesbury was a building with 10 units in it. So we've got 10 studios, finished price. They're actually, because it's an old sort of deserted shop and storage above, going to be large, expensive rooms because the square footage price to purchase is quite low. So 10 rooms at 120, and we only paid £140,000 for that entire property. As you can see, everything else goes up, utilities, maintenance goes up. But what's the value? The value finished is now £500,000. They will lend you 350. You've spent a total of 286,000, but the net cash out equity increase is 70,000, and that's available for you to take out if you so desire. And the profit per year after bad debts, 25,000 a year. So your initial investment is only 286,000. If we'd done that with a terrace, we probably would have spent over 400,000 to get the same number of rooms. Look at the difference. Look at the difference on net. It's all about aggregating all your people under one box. So you can do as many as you want. If you wanted to do 25 studios, we've got a property at the moment that will purchase price is 200,000, and believe it or not, it will fit 50 studios. If you come across the huge section here, you can see that finished it's worth 2.5 million. Cash out available is £1 million, and it will make 160,000 a year. Any questions? Give Wayne at HMO Daddy an email, or drop any of the team a message. They're all conversant with this. Hopefully it's been of some use to you, and we'll take it again another time. Thank you.